Good afternoon. Next podcast here today with a friend of mine, teammate of mine at Penn State University, Deryck Toles. I want to introduce you guys to Deryck Toles. Hey, Deryck, how you doing today?
What's up, JB?
You still, that's smooth. What's up, JB? I remember when you came in as a rookie, I said, this dude look like he's supposed to be playing next to me at safety. Yeah, a little undersized. Either I was supposed to be playing linebacker or you were supposed to be playing safety. So it was cool. So, Deryck, just want to talk to you about some things you got going on, man. You got some incredible stuff going on. Inspiring minds. I've been following you and looking at, everything you've been doing. Super proud of you, man. Super proud to call you a brother. And just tell us a little bit. Let's start out with talking about Penn State and why Penn State.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Great catching up with you. For me, Penn State was special, and I think it was what I needed in my life. I grew up in Ohio, so everybody was either talking about being a Buckeye or talking about, going to Michigan. And I know for me, I needed something different. I had a crazy background growing up, like a lot of the people who, we played with. My parents was on drugs and raised by my grandma, was taking care of my siblings, by the time I was in the fourth grade, running around the streets, being a little knucklehead, man, and was real angry, but I know I needed a change, and football was really kind of my way out, and saved my life. So I remember when I first got recruited to go to Penn State, I hadn't really heard about it, I think I seen the plain jerseys, on TV and knew who they were, but like didn't know much about where it was or the history or tradition. But when I stepped on campus, I was like, you know what? Like Penn State was my world, inside out, upside down, and it was what I needed. I remember stepping on campus, man, and listening to the coaches. The players call the coaches by their first name, and I remember the conversations we had about, why education was important. About being a man and growing up and the family that was created there. And I just remember saying, you know what, this is where I want to be.
I totally agree, man. I think one thing Joe actually taught us was football wasn't going to be everybody's career. So, it had to be a situation where he's training and he's teaching us for life. Because I know he used to say, look to your right, look to your left. Only 1% or 4% of the people in this room going to make it to the NFL. So I'm teaching you guys how to be men after football, because when you step out this room is a totally different, conversation once the career is over. And I need you guys to be prepared. So, that's kind of how, I looked at the Penn State, experience too. A lot of my teammates, a lot of my brothers. I'm so proud to see a lot of guys doing good. Yourself, it's a good time when you go up there and be able to talk to the guys and just talk about what they're doing now in their life, their careers, their families. And it's so funny to see some of the guys, the way we know them, be teachers, policemen, Ron Graham, a teacher, right? So I mean, we know a lot of stories. That's my brother, but man, it's just, that was a good place, good time. And I think for us being, kids at the time, what Joe was trying to teach us, we wasn't really understanding. It's kind of like when your parents tell you, you're not supposed to be doing this. You're not supposed to be doing that. You know that, right? But you're doing it anyway. And at the time, you don't understand how impactful it is and, the point and the goal to behind it, the whole no earrings thing, keep a fresh look, right? Because people are going to judge you, right? When you walk into that corporate office for an interview, they're going to judge you regardless, right? Regardless on what you did before then, the first thing visually, they're going to see something, right? And you want to, and I had this conversation with my son all the time because it's totally different now. Like these kids, they hair all over the place. And I try to tell them, like, look, man, keep your hair clean, keep it fresh and neat. I don't have a problem. But if you don't, then we're going to have a problem. So that's, I totally get it, totally understand.
Mm-hmm.
kind of elaborate some more on Warren. I did some research on Warren. I think in the mid 90s, the average population was about 50,000. So pretty small.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So
Warren is a very small city, very small town. It's nothing here but football. Our whole area, Northeast Ohio is just really known for football. We were Steel Town. We had General Motors and Delphi and Ford. We're between Pittsburgh and Detroit, so just big steel car industry. So there was a lot of blue collar workers. A lot of our grandparents moved up here from down south, to run from Jim Crow, and came up here for work and started their families. So, I want to say less than 7% of the population has anything past a high school education. So, a lot of people weren't going to college; they were going to work, and starting families. And then when I was growing up, when I was real young, a lot of those factories and stuff shut down, and we went through, our own little depression here, because now that we not only had unemployed workers, but we also had unemployed and an uneducated workforce. So a lot of people didn't want to come here. So the unemployment rate went up. Average household here is about, I think it's 4 people in a household. Close to 80% of the population is close to 80% of those households are bringing in less than $10,000, as an entire household. So, there's a extreme level of poverty, that exists. Back in the 90s, the drugs and stuff was running rampant, and, gangs and stuff was picking up, and, just all the things that come behind poverty. That's kind of just what was going on around here.
Yeah, right. Lack of resources, right, in our communities. And that's why I love watching what you're doing with the kids and in the community. Let's talk a little bit more about, we both been in the same shoes with aspirations and dreams of playing in the NFL. So let's talk a little bit about your NFL career and the goals and dreams you had for playing football.
Yeah. I fell in love with football, probably about 8th grade is when I was like, this is going to be my way out. I had a chip on my shoulder, and always having so many people, tell me I couldn't make it, and you ain't going to do this, and you ain't going to do that. You're going to end up like your daddy and everything else. So, I made a decision one night, like, I'm going to the NFL. That's going to be my way, to show everybody that I can make it even without them. But I knew with that being such a huge goal, a lot of different things had to line up in my life, and there was things I had to get out of my life. So I was like, okay, I got to get my grades together. I got to be dope in school. I got to work hard. And I also can't get caught up, what's going on out here in the streets. So I really locked in. I was always in the gym, and I just decided, man, I wanted to try to be the best person I can be, in and off the field. Football took off, man, and, got to Penn State. But then got to Penn State, and what's crazy is, when I get there, I start having medical issues, I got diagnosed with some rare enzyme muscle disease, that really hit me hard, and didn't know how to deal with it. So like, kind of went through that emotion, at Penn State every day. They're telling me you're gonna die, and wonder if I could ever play again. And so I remember going through a kind of a period of a deep depression. Like, man, I've made it all the way through life to get to this point, and now, my freshman year, you telling me I can't play ball no more. So that kind of bothered me, and then just wondering how, like, my teammates was gonna look at me, because I couldn't do all the runs, I couldn't do all the workouts and whatnot. So, really just didn't feel like I was holding my end of the bargain because of what everybody else was going through and dealing with. So, going through that process and starting out playing 10 plays a game my freshman year, and then every year I think they added on about five plays. So by the time I was a senior, I still wasn't playing, but maybe 30 plays max, 25 to 30 plays a game, out of 100. And so I can tell you this much, like I was extremely honored my senior year when they chose for me to be the defensive captain. That meant a lot because, I didn't even vote for myself, but it was an honor that, my teammates really looked at me and saw something in me, to help to be a leader, probably stuff I didn't even see in myself. Probably towards the end of the season, in my mind, because I had this whole medical thing going on, I thought, you know what, this is my last year playing ball. I'm going to really hit my books hard, and I was going to graduate in December. And I was just like, I'm going to probably go work, for some big company. Would love to start a business one day because I was always real entrepreneurial.
Mm-hmm.
So probably towards the end of the season when I started getting calls about, from agents and going to the combine and playing in some all-star games, I was shocked, but it helped push me through, because we had a tough season and left from there, end up, choosing an agent, went to work out in Atlanta, played in a couple all-star games, combine, all that stuff, and went from there. I end up signing as a free agent with the Falcons. And then after end of the preseason, I ended up with, who was I with? Ended up in Cleveland. Finished my rookie year in Cleveland. They fired the coaching staff at the end of the year. And actually they fired the head coach, Butch Davis, during the season. And then I ended up staying there. At the end of the season, they fired everybody. And I thought they was doing the whole, what's it called, NFL Europe at the time. So I'm like, all right, well, all the rookies and stuff who didn't play normally went to, NFL Europe. I ended up getting picked up by the Indianapolis Colts. So I went there, was there in the playoffs. And then the following year, going into the season, I ended up getting injured. And this was, other than my medical thing, like my first real injury. Ended up, shredding my hip flexors, tearing my abductors, man, and my lower abs, messed up my surgery. I tried to come back they tried to rehab me for about 6 months. I tried to come back, then found out they messed my surgery up, so I had to go on for another one. And then ended up getting put on IR, rehab for a year, was trying to get back in, bro, and was never the same.
Right.
So, yeah. And, life had to go from there.
Right. And I vaguely remember your year at school when you was having the medical issues. I can say we never looked at, well, I know at least I didn't look at you as not being able to come, and, everybody has the, medical stuff happen, life happen. But I do remember my senior year, you playing a lot. So, it's funny. I was looking at, the other day, I saw some highlights and I was looking at the Iowa game and the Purdue game. And it's funny because I wouldn't normally come down opposite side. And then I was like, well, that look like me? But I was like, no, that's number 2. What are you doing there? Yeah. But it's so funny because, I remember when you guys came in, I was like, all right, Duke can play. So, let's see what he can do. So, yeah, man, I think, from my perspective, everybody, we was dealing with Adam, a little bit right before that, I guess, the year before that, we was dealing with Adam, and, then we got the news about you. And, as far as you might not be able to play much or be limited. So I know for me, it was like, well, damn, I was looking forward to playing with him. And, we was young at linebacker. So we needed the depth. And I felt like, you could bring that funk over there, and you did. I mean, you didn't play much, but the time you did play, you played. So I definitely agree with you. Life happens, right? And so, at the end of the day, We just got to adjust and keep it moving. And that's kind of, about, my podcast is called Next. It's life after, football, sports, whatever, right? Football is per se itself, we can only play, let's say not for long, right? So the average, football career is 3 to 4 years. So after that, what are you going to do? We know a lot of people that we've played with, that's playing, we didn't play with. There's a hard transition, right? They go depressed, they go MIA. Yep. You can't find them. Yep. Some of our teammates to this day haven't had a conversation with them. You call them, they text you back. So, man, it's tough. And I don't think people understand, I think it's more of the camaraderie in the locker room and the brotherhood in the locker room, right? And when it's over, it's like, oh, damn, what's next? And a lot of guys not prepared for what's next. And so definitely understand. So let's talk about a little bit about Inspiring Minds and how you came about starting a nonprofit.
Definitely. So I get injured. So I was like, I was a light, in my community. Everybody knew me. They knew the block I grew up on.
Bluetooth connected.
And they had a really, I think, deep connection because they watched me grow up. So when I would come back home, a lot of the kids who watched me play in high school, they was the kids now out on the block. They was the kids now running around the city. And some of them being knuckleheads in school, So when I would drive down the street, I always came back, stay with my grandma, and they be standing on the corner throwing it up. Yo, what up? D back in town. They would always walk by the crib and holler at me. They would always ask me like, what was life like, over there? What was it like, man? You was in the same locker room with Peyton Manning and Mike Vick, and what was it like being around all these guys and playing at Penn State? I would always just tell them like, no, it's so much bigger than what you see on TV. Mm-hmm. But I knew if I can make it, like, you can too. So when I got hurt and I was on injured reserve with the Colts, since they were still paying me, they was like, you got to go to therapy and you got to do this and do that for 8 hours a day. So I would be there training and going through all this rehab and testing. And at the end of every therapy session, they would do ultrasound on my scars on my hips. And I was always one to take a lot of notes. And I would just sit there and just write, and really journal. And one day I was just thinking about all the things that happened to me in my life. And I was sitting there like, man, like, my career could be over. It ain't even really get started yet. Like, I'm just like going into my second year and I'm sitting here like all banged up. Like, what am I gonna do? And so on the left side of the paper, I began to write down all the negative things that happened to me, from the drugs and violence, that I grew up around, some of the hopelessness and insecurities and, not having positive male role models and all that. On the right side, I wrote down all the positive things that happened to me, because at some point there were people who came in my life and helped me, being able to leave, go to college, meet people like you, like from all different walks of life who I could relate to and made it. Just meeting business owners and traveling the world, and all the relationships I had built, just through life. And then, I began to think like, that saying like, man, I wish I knew back then what I know now.
Right.
And we have all said that to ourselves. And I began to think about like, my life was crazy, but like, if there was some things I would have known back in the day, it could have been a little bit easier. So, when I was trying to raise my brother and my sister, man, in the fourth grade, like, I remember I used to steal from the store. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't trying to be tough or cool. I was just trying to take food home to them. And I remember saying to myself, like, man, like, what if there was a place where kids could get fed, because it was a time where I got caught and ran out, and it could have just really ended up bad for me. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, what if there was that place so kids wouldn't have to feel the need to go in and steal and do something to somebody just so they can eat? When I decided that I wanted football to kind of be my way out and understood the importance of education. I remember being up till 2, 3 in the morning trying to figure out my homework and figure out projects. Like my grandma couldn't help me. So I just, remember going, you know what, like, what if there was a place that could help kids with their homework and help them with their work? Because when we was young, growing up, and the teacher used to ask a question, we used to all raise our hand, ooh, pick me, pick me. But at some point, we used to say, I don't care. When the reality is we didn't know. So what if there was a place that can help young people, from an educational perspective, so they can be confident and then go back in the classroom and begin to raise their hand again and be sure about, what they know. And then last but not least, my junior year, I began to get recruited. And, and you've been through this. They had all the top colleges would come in like second, third period and pull me out of class. And all the kids in the class would envy me because I had all these coaches and people who they see on TV coming and pull me out of class. What they didn't realize was I was scared to death. I had nobody around me who had this experience. I didn't know what a major was. I didn't know what a big school, a small school, a black school, a technical school. I didn't know none of that. And I had all these people telling me stuff. I'm supposed to come here, I'm supposed to do this, and didn't know what to do. So I was like, you know what? What if there was a place where young people can put their feet at a young age on college campuses and they can learn about majors, they can learn about different businesses and occupations so that by the time they graduate, they know exactly what they want to be. And as I started looking back through my notes, I was like, man, what is you doing? And it was like, you know what? You inspiring their mind. And that's how the name came. I started with 4 kids, man, just meeting with them in McDonald's because their parents was like, yo, can you holler at my son? Can you holler at my daughter? We would just sit there and talk about life when I would be back in town. And then it went from 1 hour, maybe a month, to 2 hours. And I started saying, bring your homework with you. So we sit there, we do homework for an hour, and then we just talk about life. Next thing you know, they start saying, yo, can I bring my siblings? Can I bring my friends? And one day, one of the kids was like, yo, D, I want to go to college. Can you help me? And that's when I knew we had something.
So you went from 4 to 5 kids on a month to how many now? How many kids do you work with now? And how many facilities do you have?
Yeah, so we now, here in Warren, we now work with over 450 kids a year. So far, we've worked with over 4,000 kids over the last 16 years. They've all went on to college or the military or started their own businesses. We also have 5 chapters across the country. We're in Warren, Youngstown, we're in Philadelphia, PA, we're in Brooklyn and New York City, and we're also in Durham, North Carolina. And we're looking at 2 or 3 new chapters coming up here soon, Columbus, Dayton, Sharon-Farrow area. And the long-term vision is to actually open a boarding school for Black boys.
So where are some trips that you guys have been on? I saw on the website trip to Africa. How was the trip to Africa?
Yeah, so we the goal is just to expose people. So, for me, when I think about we walked in stadiums, right, with 110, 120,000 people screaming and yelling for us, right? And, I began to think like, man, where were them people at, a couple years ago? And I think about how we were exposed and the resources that we actually had to travel, right? And we had been all over the place, all because of sport. But we're part of the 0.001% of people who was actually able, to start our life, due to a sport. What about the other 99%? And I believe that they need the same thing. And exposure is one of them. So we've been everywhere from New York to LA, down south to Puerto Rico, El Salvador, Jamaica, and also to Africa. The year of the return, we actually took them to Ghana. And the following year, we were on our way to Kenya before COVID hit. So that trip to Africa was amazing. I know it was something I've always wanted to do with our young people because we come from a place where, especially our kids, like we work with Black kids, and unfortunately, we just don't see many of us in certain positions. It's another reason why Inspiring Minds is so important to me, because we grew up and the only time we saw Black people was when they entertained us. They were either an athlete or a rapper, or doing some things that ain't so good. So for us to be able to travel and them to see Black people in a different light, to see us as some of our truest forms, back down to our roots, being able to farm, being entrepreneurs, being fathers, being leaders, being in politics, just being in so many different walks of life. I just thought that was powerful, to see an entire community and country built around you and who you are, seeing billboards where you see your faces and your language, hearing your music, seeing your food. That energy was just dope. And I think it was something that was just very valuable to our kids.
I totally agree, man. I think, having having resources to be able to show kids a better way. And it's more than just, Virginia, Chesapeake, Virginia, or Warren, Ohio. And to be able to show them, like you said, we've traveled the world because of a sport, right? And people admired and looked up to us because of a sport, right? And that's a small community, right? So to be able to show a kid that is more to life than just, the projects that you grew up in or the city you grew up in. I remember watching a movie, I think it was Tyrese and Megan Good, and they grew up in Crenshaw, and he took her to Hollywood, and she made it. She was so excited, like she was going to another country. But that's kind of how it really works, right? So when you got these projects and these conditions where the Black community or the brown community is forced to live, it's hard sometimes for our kids to be able to see the light on the other side unless they have somebody in their life really supporting them and showing them that it's more to it than just, this project or this school, or, just showing them more, right? Because I do think a lot of the schools are limited on resources, right? So they limited on resources. So the teachers and the churches and everybody in the community, they don't even know, right? So a lot of times when you got guys like yourself and myself, we show them a lot of the times too about what's going on in the real world, and show them, there's other places to go, a lot of places to go and a lot of places to see. And I agree, we have been real, like, I know I'm grateful for football to be able to show me so many other things in life that I know I wouldn't have been able to get if not for football, right? My mom was a single mom, right. So I definitely understand. So I'm super proud of you, man. Super excited for you. Looking forward to seeing, how big and where you go at with Inspiring Minds. If you need my help with anything, just let me know. I'm a part of a nonprofit as well. It's called Team 083. And we actually in the process of doing some similar stuff to what you're doing. One of my cousins growing up, he went to jail, early age. So when he got out, he started the nonprofit, and he went to jail for selling drugs, right? And like so many people in our community do, it wasn't that he was a bad person. Yep. He was trying to survive, right? So, he did his time, he got out, and ever since he's got out, he's, he have his own business, doing his own thing. Awesome. He started, the Team 83, and now we're trying to take it and build it and take it, do similar things to what you're doing with Inspiring Minds. So if you get a call from me, awesome. It might be some ideas on some stuff, partners with some stuff. So because we're working on a lot of things too. So super proud of you, man. Keep doing your thing. If you need me, let me know. Let us know how and where we can let my listeners know how we can donate and where we can find Inspiring Minds on social media, website, and any other platforms you use.
Definitely. Yeah, our website is imuYouth.org. That's imuYouth.org. All our social media sites are at Inspiring Minds Youth. So we're on Instagram and we're also on Facebook. So it's at Inspiring Minds Youth. You can find us there. And we're always looking for support. We appreciate any donations, any amount. We also have a list of items that we always need. We talking toilet paper and paper towels and cups and cases of water. So we also have an Amazon list. So if you're ever out shopping and just want to send us some things, because we always need it, man, soap and all the different things for our kids. And we have a couple events a year. Would love to pull at you. I've been trying to connect with folks I played with. We do a golf outing, celebrity golf outing. So I try to get, just guys that I know every year, a few guys to come and participate. So, if I can get, a couple guys a year, that'd be cool. I don't need you every year, but any love, would definitely help. So
yeah, definitely, man.
Yes, and I appreciate your platform, man, and what you do.
Definitely, man. Let me know. I'm always open to come out and help out. So I make sure I post all the links to your websites, to your send me the information about your Amazon account. I'll make sure I post everything up. Put you on the website. Put how you can donate, how they can reach you.